welcome everybody to New Heart, New World. I'm Rasika Manjari and thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about finding balance. Life-work balance is an elusive concept at the best of times. Did you ever wonder why work-life balance is even a thing, that work and life are separate in themselves? Well, the reason is that our experience of work, for many of us, is so far removed from our ideal concept of what life should be, then it becomes a totally separate thing. Hence, we strive for a work-life balance, trying to bring two things into equilibrium that apparently, in our experience, are not. So at certain times in our lives, we may feel compelled to do certain things or to achieve certain milestones by certain periods of time in our lives. For example, starting a family or studying, getting a certain kind of job. So all of these require resources and take up all our time and energy and finances, and we heavily invest in these things to achieve what it is we ultimately feel we feel is good for us in the long term. But after all of our resources are exerted and spent, then what's left? Well, usually what's left is the frazzled remnants of our poor selves, that after they've been cooked in the fire of study and bills and relationships and family. So we may come up for air at times, and if we're lucky, we have pleasant activities which help us unwind. Because really, unwind is what we need to do, because the more we invest in these activities, the more we spend all our resources in these endeavors, then we get increasingly entangled in these pursuits, and of course their fallout. Now, of course, these pursuits can be enjoyable in many ways as well. However, despite the fact that it may be enjoyable or not so enjoyable, we do get wrapped up in them and entangled more and more as we go about our daily lives. So after a while, we can even start to look like a ball of tangled twine as we go about our daily duties, both literally and figuratively, that we get so tangled up in our endeavors. So to untangle or to unwind or to even prevent this ball of tangled twine in the first place, then we need some kind of balance in our lives at some level, in some way or another. So balance implies a foundation, a fulcrum from which everything else stems in a systematic and organized manner, resulting in stability. So if you think about a gymnast or a dancer, they have so many exotic and intricate and varied moves, and they usually are very beautiful to behold when they are performing. However, that expression, that beautiful expression, is usually a result of a core foundation of basic steps and stability and strength. So in this way, our lives are much like that of a gymnast or dancer, in that they are things of beauty if we allow them to be. But we also, like the gymnast and dancer, need that core stability and strength from which we can be creative and live our lives in the way that we truly would like to live them. So to achieve a natural and beautiful balance, we seek to create a foundation from within, a stable foundation of ourselves, of our thoughts and our emotions. So it's well known that the mind is in its most peaceful state when neither at the extremes of happiness or distress. So the mind is happiest when it's somewhere in between, so at some balance point between those two extremes. So we often search for this kind of stability that we need internally, that we need for ourselves. Usually we search for that externally through external things like relationships and our families, our employment, and different projects and various hobbies and activities that we may engage in. However, ultimately, these things prove to be unreliable, and by nature they are changing and subject to variation in ways that we can't control. So ultimately what happens is we're either inspired or forced to look elsewhere for that stability that we so crave and seek, because that stability is analogous to balance, equilibrium that we need to function at any sort of productive level. So compared with these fallible soldiers of people and things and projects, then there are alternative options to provide that stability for us in our daily lives. And these alternative options are unchanging and are stable over time and usually strengthen us the more and more we use them as our source of strength and stability. So we learn about this alternative or these alternative options from one of the ancient sacred foundational texts of the Bhakti Yoga tradition, the Bhagavad Gita. So here the Bhagavad Gita leads us to that which is unchanging and eternal, and also ultimately satisfying because it is so steadfast. So there really is a book that has the answers to all of the questions of life, and the questions are, when posed in an inquisitive manner and in a way that is receptive to information and answers that give us ways to approach or perceive life in from an alternative viewpoint, then that is when our hearts and minds open to the possibility of true balance and ultimately peace and happiness. So one thing we learn from these ancient wisdom texts is the power of mantra meditation. So mantra meditation is in the Bhakti Yoga tradition, in the teachings and philosophy, is actually the key way to creating balance in our lives, in our minds, our hearts, and hence our emotions, which ultimately give us that internal strength and stability from which we can do almost anything. So the mantra meditation achieves this by connecting us with the divine, which addresses our natural longing for something that will give us happiness and also ultimate true fulfillment and balance, which is a natural result of these things. Or actually, happiness and fulfillment is a natural result of the balance we feel when our hearts and minds work together in unison in the chanting of the mantra meditation. So when we focus on the mantra and engage our hearts over time, then we ultimately experience something beyond the ordinary. So as usual, we'll chant the mantra, the Maha Mantra, together now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When combined with the philosophical knowledge of the Bhakti Yoga tradition, the Maha Mantra brings these experiences to life, these extraordinary experiences to life, and is a recipe for finding that ultimate balance that is the recipe for productive activity, and from which we can really branch out and, a bit like the dancer, perform our graceful moves in ways that can be creative and exciting. So basically, mantra meditation in combination with the philosophical teachings of the Bhakti Yoga tradition are a blissful solution to getting our lives stable and in some kind of order. So together they result in an equilibrium of spirit which provides a strong base and a reference from which we can make sense of all else around us. So if you would like to know more about the Maha Mantra or about the philosophical teachings of Bhakti Yoga, please visit my website at newheart-newworld.com. And of course, I'll be talking to you again through these videos on various topics of the secrets and not so secrets of Bhakti Yoga. So please stay tuned. So until then, I wish you all well. And also, I would love to hear your comments about what you think about finding balance and how you find balance in your life. So please comment below. So until we meet again, bye for now.